very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack as well as outright invasion. For the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise hire agents to acquire through theft, bribery, or espionage. That details of this nation's covert preparations to counter the enemy's covert operations have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use, have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power, and that in at least one case, the publication of details concerning a secret mechanism whereby satellites were followed required its alteration at the expense of considerable time and money. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal, patriotic, responsible, and well-meaning. Had we been engaged in open warfare, they undoubtedly would not have published such items. But in the absence of open warfare, they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention and urge its thoughtful consideration. On many earlier occasions I have said, and your newspapers have constantly said, that these are times that appeal to every citizen's sense of sacrifice and self-discipline. They call out to every citizen to weigh his rights and comforts against his obligations to the common good. I cannot now believe that those citizens who serve in the newspaper business consider themselves exempt from that appeal. I have no intention of establishing a new Office of War Information to govern the flow of news. I am not suggesting any new forms of censorship or new types of security classifications. I have no easy answer to the dilemma that I have posed and would not seek to impose it if I had one. But I am asking the members of the newspaper profession and the industry in this country to re-examine their own responsibilities, to consider the degree and the nature of the present danger, and to heed the duty of self-restraint, which that danger imposes upon us all. Every newspaper now asks itself, with respect to every story, is it news? All I suggest is that you add the question, is it in the interest of national security?
A new form of protest. No yelling, no screaming, no fighting. A more efficient way or form of protesting. Thousands of people standing in complete silence, protesting in squares and public places in Turkey, baffling the police by creating a calm curiosity instead of tension and aggression. Non-violent is the force that will change the world. Some disabilities look like this. Some look like this. Listen, I'm a pretty decent guy. So, if I'm being an asshole to you, you need to ask yourself why. I think that pretty much says it all, really, doesn't it? Straight out of They Live, of course. And if you've not seen that movie yet, you seriously need to go and watch it. It's on YouTube, or it was last time I checked. As for everything we're going to be talking about, links, as usual, will be in the descriptions if you want to read the full article, because I'll just do the little bit to give you the brief outline. British Conservative Party to ban boycotts of Israel. Conservative Party in Britain, led by PM Boris Johnson, pledges to ban local councils for boycotting foreign countries, including Israel. So, you know that Israel's, or those that run Israel, are a bunch of evil satanic criminals, and this just shows you that he's one of them because he's banning you protesting against it. Free speech doesn't exist in the UK. The Conservative Party in Britain, led by Prime Minister Boris Johnson, will ban local councils from boycotting products from foreign countries, including Israel. The pledge is made in the party's election policy manifesto in the run-up to the December 12th selection. We will ban public bodies from imposing their own direct or indirect boycotts, disinvestment of sanctions campaigns against foreign countries. These undermine community coercion, the document released Sunday says. Now, what they mean by that is this paves the way for the imports from America of all the toxic food that they're going to start importing, as we'll get to maybe a little later. Introducing a law against such boycotts. Well, it's not a law, it's a statute or an act. It's only given force of law by those that consent. So get off that voters register and stop consenting. Against such boycotts would prevent Labour majority local councils from imposing boycotts against Israel, according to the Jewish Chronicle. See, it's all about Israel, not the rest of the country, but then again, that's what they want you to think, because it's also about the US. Man risks everything to provide medical marijuana to dying children. The evidence and experience of cannabis aiding the remedy of cancer is stacking up, and Bud Buddies are relentless in their mission to supply people in need. Marijuana is being used medically all over the world, despite the law in most countries depriving it of medical validity. The UK is particularly backwards in their ideology towards the legalisation of cannabis for medical use, as explained by Bud Buddies cannabis consultant Jeff Ditchfield. You see, they've known since 1974. Documents that have now been released show that they knew in 1974 that cannabis could cure cancer. So every MP since 74 are guilty of manslaughter at the very least, and I would say corporate murder. Banks exploiting broken legal system to get quick debt judgments, Master of High Court warns. The Master of the High Court has said banks are exploiting dysfunction in the legal system to get fast-track judgment against debtors. Edmund Honohan also said barristers were not informing judges of legal precedents and that members of the judiciary were making errors in law as a result. The comments were made in a scathing decision involving Allied Irish Bank plc, where it was seeking a summary judgment against a woman called Trudy McDermott over an alleged €700,000 debt. We all know the banks and the courts are pretty much one and the same. So there's no shock there, but it's against the rules, but yeah, who are you going to complain to? Saudi princess tells all, including Bangladeshi children traded as sex slaves. Saudi princess Amir bint Aden bin Naif went on a rampage against the ruling Saudi regime in her exclusive statement to the French newspaper Le Monde, saying slavery in Saudi Arabia has different forms, but it is done in secrecy and permitted only among the primary beneficiaries of the Princess of the House of Saud. Links in description if you want to read the rest of that. Explosive leaked trade papers show NHS chlorinated chicken already on table in US trade talks. This is Wednesday, 27th of November 2019. Campaigners welcome release of secret documents on US-UK trade talks. No wonder the government didn't want us to see these papers. They show Johnson's government is dancing to the tune of US multinationals. Trade deal with Trump would threaten public services, consumer protection and online rights. Trade campaigners have welcomed the release of leaked papers detailing trade talks between the Trump administration and the British government officials, which show the US government pushing Britain into as hard a Brexit as possible because they see this as the best way of benefiting the US economy. This comes at the expense of standards, protections and livelihoods in Britain. The leaked papers show US officials calling Theresa May's Chequers proposal for a Brexit a worst-case scenario, because it would not allow a sufficient change to British food standards to give US agriculture increased penetration into British markets. Fourth Working Group P26. One of the biggest changes Boris Johnson's made to May's Brexit proposal was to remove a long-term link of British and European standards threatening food and other standards under the US trade deal. The papers show that Johnson made these changes despite economic modelling which suggests this scenario would be good for the US but bad for Britain. Fifth Group Working Group, page 97. The details are leaked versions of the secret papers detailing trade talks between US and British negotiators, which were previously only released in highly redacted form and were condemned by Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn as part of the first general election debate. Analysis by Global Justice now says the papers also show, and the rest, I'm not going to read the rest, if you want to read the rest, links are in the description, but it shows you what the game really is about. Food banks braced for busiest December on record. It's not right that anyone should have to use food bank at any time of year, not just Christmas. Trussell Trust say. A food bank charity is braced for its busiest December yet, as it called on the next government to work towards a scenario where everyone has enough money for basics. The government are never going to do that. The Trussell Trust, which runs a network of food banks across the UK, said new data shows December 2018 was the busiest month for food banks last year. It said 186,185 three-day emergency food parcels were provided by food banks in the Trussell Trust network to people in crisis, with 78,536 of those going to children. This is a 44% higher than the monthly average for the 2018-19 financial year, the charity said. Working perfectly for government, that means. Breast milk accidentally discovered as a potential new cancer treatment. Now can you see why they've been trying to stop women from breastfeeding their kids? Because they know it's the best natural defence that the kids get, and that's why they've been up to it. The health benefits of breast milk have long been flouted, but experts are now testing whether a compound found in mother's milk could help treat cancer. The accidental discovery of the effects of the compound found in breast milk, and nicknamed Hamlet, could mean a more effective and targeted way to kill cancerous tumour cells. Researchers from the University of Lund in Sweden have revealed some positive results from studying the effects Hamlet has on bladder cancer patients. In the early trials, those injected with the compound began to shed dead tumour cells through their urine within days. There's something magical about Hamlet's ability to target tumour cells and kill them. Like I've said all along, there are numerous cures for cancer, and nature holds them all. But because they can't put a patent on it and charges thousands of pounds to get it, they keep it hush-hush. Nottinghamshire police face a backlash after they posted a social media suggesting women who walk alone at night are at risk of being attacked. The Facebook post said walking alone at night was a risk women should not be taking, after it was reported that a woman was followed by a man in Broxtowe. The force said the post was clumsy and has since been deleted. The post had said, taking a risk when it comes to walking alone at night is not one of those things we should be doing. Women who walk alone, especially at night, are at risk of harassment or even physical assault. Helen Vose, Chief Executive of Nottingham's Women's Centre, told the BBC she could not believe the post had been made by the police. And yet everyone else can, because we all know they're a bunch of corrupt wankers, the lot of them. The Guardian. Gary Rhodes, 1960 to 2019. Jonathan Miller, 34 to 2019. Secret papers prove Tories want to sell NHS. Corbyn. We have evidence that under Boris Johnson the NHS is on the table and will be up for sale. Clive James, broadcaster, writer and TV critic, dies aged 80. They're all dropping, aren't they? Shame they're going to miss this move into the fourth dimension that's coming, and the changes, the global changes that are coming, and the end of this crooked system that we've all been living in. Maltese PM chief, aid, help in murder inquiry. The Mirror. Did TV check Gary 59 die after all? Did? I don't know, I'm guessing so. NHS for sale, shock. Labour reveals secret papers that show our health service is on table in Brexit trade talks with US. The proof. It's always been that way. We knew it was coming. They're all in it for themselves and not for us. I think it's the Express. So it's farewell to another one. PM breaks free from Tory past with shock declaration about decade of cuts. Boris, why austerity was wrong for Britain. But he's still not doing anything about it because that's the plan. Try and kill us all with these. Well, we all know the plan. The Times. Johnson heads for big majority. Our survey to forecast hung parliament in last election predicts Tories will win 359 seats, giving the cushion of 68 seats. And that will be the end of the UK if that happens. Ex-Met boss blasts officers' prosecution. Giants of culture are mourned by the... Well, not really. Metro. Roads again. Poll boost for Tories. PM tip for win by experts who predict 2017 stalemate. So, in other words, they know how they're going to fix the results, and they're going to fix it so that he gets in, and that will be like Hillary Clinton, if she'd have got in and for the US. This is what's going to be for here. Telegraph. Election is too close to call, warns Cummings. Corbyn dodges TV debates after dismissing disastrous BBC interview. Duke's charity partner is in mainstream mistreatment claim. What a shock. Something to do with the royals, and they're a bunch of crooks as well, eh? May had secret plan to send troops to Syria. Bankers fear explosion of sour fax bread. Chelsea hope go down in to the wire. Waste of paper. I'm a celeb, bust up your right, bully. Ian accused of picking on comic Andrew. FT, Lagarde bid to put climate change at centre of ECB monetary policy. There's another criminal that wants to be locked up. Issue is mission critical. New chief risk clash inside central bank German debts. Labour and Tory spending pledges set to bust budget rules, warn think tank. But they'll spend it, and it'll all go to their groups, who will then siphon off the majority of the money, give them a quick backhander, and then we'll get nothing out of it. So if you're voting for that, you're voting for your own doom. Me. Thanks again for all that you do for me. Leans in for a kiss. Liquor store clerk. Can you just pay for your vodka? Last night I was sitting on the sofa watching TV when I heard my wife's voice from the kitchen. What would you like for dinner, my love? Chicken, beef or lamb? I said, thank you, I'll have chicken, please. She replied, you're having soup, you fat bastard. I was talking to the cat. I miss being a kid. If I slept like that nowadays, I'd be paralysed. When it gets busy, just as you're about to leave work, peace, bitches, I'm out of here. If it wasn't for my random outbursts, insane ramblings and wild hallucinations, I'd be as boring as you. Me. Can I have that in big bills? Bank teller. This is a cheque for $14.04. Me. Make one of those bad boys a 10. I always wanted to be somebody, but now I realise I should have been more specific.